want to save that for the we close. And
Yeah.
we're
Oh,
live.
hi.
Hey, it's Wednesday, everyone. Happy was it September 9th? I can't believe it's already September. Where does the time go? Anyway, hey, welcome to Making Waves. This is Making Waves 9. So we're moving along here, and my name is Justin, and I'm your moderator tonight. And as always, we have our host, Chad Nicefield. You guys know Chad.
Hello.
And Wilson, and also he hosted Shiprock 2019 and going forward, or 2020. God, is it?
Yeah.
See, it always seems like here. Anyway, listen, guys, we are super stoked to present our friend Ben Bruce from Asking Alexandria.
Yay!
Yes.
We're still here.
I'm looking forward to this one.
Here, yes. So, guys, if you haven't joined us before on Making Waves, and this is your first time, if you guys are following along on our Facebook Live feed, in the comment section, go ahead and ask some questions if you want for Ben, and we'll get to those. And other than that, I'll chime in from here and there, and I'm going to let Chad and Ben speak for a while. So you guys have at it. Ben, thanks again, man. We really appreciate your time tonight.
Watch every single question be, where'd your hair go?
Yeah. I was gonna jump off. I'm gonna beat him to the punch. Hey, where'd your hair go, man?
Ah, shit. It's pocket. I cut it.
Yeah. We were just talking before we went live. You're living in not North Carolina, but South Carolina now. And that's a big change, I guess. Like, well, you were in Arizona, I think, right? Previous?
Yeah, I was in Arizona for like 5 or 6 years.
Not to be the weather guy here, but it's quite the different type of hot, right? That humidity over there. Are you used to that yet?
You can at least live and breathe in this kind of hot. Arizona, I was charring. I was getting to be well done. I didn't know how much longer I had left. I was drying up. My hands were all cracked. I was like, we gotta go. Hadn't seen it in years.
Seriously, are we? Well, like as a guitar player, this sounds kind of cheesy, but I would imagine when you're just out in the middle of the desert by yourself, like just ripping a tasty solo, that can be a little bit cumbersome for you.
Yeah, but it would be one of those cool things, like at the end of a Marvel movie or something. I'd be playing and just be blown away in the wind as dust particles and ash, and there would be nothing left but my guitar in the desert. What happened? Arizona heat.
Yeah, you got me again. Another one hits the desk, literally. Bites the dust, I suppose, right? Hey, I wanted to start this off by talking about locations. We're in this funky time, and here we are being able to talk to each other. And on the other side of this, there's a whole screen of people that have tuned in and are watching us do this. And this newfangled technology has allowed us to really wrap things outside of this, like make records all around the world. With that being said, I know that you probably made the last record, which by the way rules, not during quarantine times. But I'd like to talk a little bit about what it's like in these particular situations. A, not being able to hit the road with your dudes to really push the record, and then B, communicating and keeping up with each other's like regular schedules as well as like creating remotely.
It's hard. It's really difficult. And you know what, to begin with, it was really upsetting actually. Like we'd spent so long getting to this point, our entire careers apparently. And we finally felt like we'd hit our stride, and we'd spent all of 2019 and I think 18 pretty much in like arenas and doing huge festival slots. And we were like, okay, we're doing this. There was so much momentum. We worked so hard. We did this album. We'd booked our tour, our headline tour, and it was our first headline tour in a long time because, like I said, we spent a lot of time supporting on the self-titled album. And so we were excited to get back out there and headline again. The tour was just selling out left, right, and center. We were adding second dates, adding third dates. And I was like, this is insane. Like, we were stoked. And then it all got taken away. Yeah. And I actually remember my manager called me, and it's going to sound silly, but I really had to try really hard to not just cry on the phone when he told me, because we were just so hopeful that it was going to pass. And obviously no one could have guessed. Well, I say no one, I'm sure there were scientists warning us for years about this, but we ignored them. And yeah, it was devastating. And so we were like, okay, so we'll just sit and wait it out. And then you fast forward to, it's the end of the year nearly, we're still all sat here waiting it out. So we don't even know what's gonna happen. So I don't know when touring's coming back. People say summer, people say spring, people say fall. who knows?
Yeah.
It's
It's crapshoot, right?
yeah, it's coming back May 9th, 2021 when we do ship.
There you
It's
go.
coming back.
Where's our invite?
It's in the
Hey.
mail.
Yeah, USPS.
Oh,
see
so
if it
it's
makes
on the floor in a parking lot in California somewhere then.
Correct. That's right. It's actually behind that door. I picked them all up. So when you guys made the record, were you all living together, or at least closer, I guess, in proximity with Arizona being where you're at? And I don't. Where's everybody else at in the band currently at this time?
Actually, I was in Arizona. Cam is in Arizona. James is in Arizona. Sam was in Arizona. Danny is in Jacksonville, Florida.
Womp
But no, you know, I have no idea why he was there. It's not even where he is.
How does a band from York, England, all wind up in the U.S. living and having families and such?
Especially in Arizona, I would assume that wasn't where you originally implemented yourself into, right? Like, how did you get from York starting a band to the States and then subsequently Arizona?
We actually, when we first came out, we went to New Jersey because we came out and we were like, okay, tri-state area, you know. So we had Philly, we had New York, we had Jersey. You know, we could get to PA, and it was like, okay, this seems like the smart move. That's where we actually flew into, and we realized we had nowhere to go. So my parents bought us an RV that we lived in a Walmart parking lot for months. Just trying to get on local shows and stuff, and we gradually migrated and went elsewhere, and now we are where we're at. And it's funny because I just left Arizona, like I said, about five weeks ago now, and then apparently then everyone decided to leave. So James was like, oh well, if you're leaving, I'm leaving. So James leaves in like 2 days to go to Texas. And Sam, our bass player, was like, oh, well, if you're leaving, I'm leaving too. And he's packed up and he's moving back to England.
Wow. Oh,
wow.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
a big,
That's the outlier.
Yeah.
So now we don't know what we're going to do. When touring comes back, we'll be like, oh, well, we can't. We don't know where we live.
Yeah. maybe you can hit your mom up with that RV loan again. That'd be a blast from the past.
That RV has to be somewhere. We don't know where it is, by the way.
Really? What do you mean?
We don't know where the RV is.
It's on eBay.
Where's my car situation or what?
Pretty much, yeah. No, we had the RV for years, and our old manager at the time, he owns a bus company, and we still use his buses when we go out on tour. And I went to the bus yard about 5-6 weeks ago. Because to get to Charleston, I didn't want to put my family on a plane during the pandemic, so I got a tour bus cross country, and I was walking through the yard, and I was like,
"Fucking awesome! Sorry, this is awesome.
It was great." And I was like, "Where's our RV, dude?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't know." And I was like, "So you've lost it then?" And he was like, "I guess." And I was like, "Okay, it's gone."
That's so like that was the end of the conversation, and then he just like, here's the keys, dude. Wow.
Yeah, that was the end of the conversation. I was like, all right, we've not stepped foot in that thing for like, when did we start touring in a bus? 2010. We've not stepped foot in it for a decade, so who knows where it is.
Wow. What if it ends up being like a meth lab, like that show or whatever somewhere?
Recognize the one on Breaking Bad.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, Saul's living in it.
Yeah, exactly. That's quite. I didn't know that about the band.
Yeah. Hey, Ben, I've got a really good quick question from one of our ship rockers, Monica, and just talking with you now in these stories, and I've noticed that witnessing and seeing you guys plenty of times live, there's a lot of great banter with you guys on stage. Has it always been kind of a comedy troupe with you bunch?
Pretty much. I think it's just, it's going to sound silly. I think it's an English thing. We don't really know how to be nice to each other. So you just talk shit, and the meaner you are to each other, the more you like each other. And that ended up just translating on stage. And then obviously we love our fans too. So they get brought into it all. And some people think we're being dicks, but really it's endearing, I think. And we're welcoming you into our Rat Pack.
Oh, it's that wonderful black humor.
Yeah.
Gotta love.
Add on to that. I've seen the band so many times. In fact, my venues hosted you guys back in Detroit. a bunch over the years. I watch it. You know, I love just being a fly on the wall and listening. You know, whether I even existed at that point. Like I'm like, these guys are funny, but like I see your inclusion in that humor with your fans.
These guys
and
are hilarious. They suck
Yeah.
at music though.
Yeah, I think they should really just start a variety show. But
We thought about it.
yeah, I mean, really, guys are not only do you are funny, you're talented musicians, but you wrap it all into a little package and then invite your fans into the world that you've created, which is part of the reason I would say, as a fan of your band, that I've paid attention to the entirety of your rise from that point where you're playing in my clubs, to 500 cap rooms all the way to arenas, like you said. That shit hasn't really changed. And whether that's an English thing or not, I wanted to at least touch on this, the fact that it's an inclusive thing. It's not like you're like, fuck you guys in the front row for buying the front row tickets. Like it's what they want.
It's such an important thing that we've always we've been addressed like by labels and managers and stuff from time to time in our career. It's like, okay, it's time to stop that now. And it's like, but it's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be a show. And it's really helped a lot over the years when, I mean, as you know, the shows don't always run smoothly. There's technical difficulties. PAs go down, strings aren't being played. Click tracks that are supposed to be going in your ear come out the PA, and all sorts of things can happen, And when that happens, a lot of bands go, and then they walk off stage, and that's it. And the shows, everyone's left looking, waiting, and you're just waiting for the show. For us, and it's happened a lot of times, me and Danny go, oh, okay, well, now it's time to be comedians, our true passion. And we'll just turn the whole thing into a joke. We'll have fun. And I think it's important to do, because you go to a show to have a good time, right? You want to go home and go, that was great. You don't want to go home and go, well, I sat in the crowd for 40 minutes while they fixed a problem. It's just
barely got a boner.
We were headlining the second stage at Rockham Ring in Germany, and it was a massive. It was an arena packed, filled with people, and it was at 2 a.m. Such a stupid time to have to play. So stupid, in fact, we went to bed and woke up to play the show, but it was late, and I was like, oh no. And the last thing you want at 2 o'clock in the morning, when there's an arena filled with people that have been raging drugs and alcohol all day, is for the PA to go down. But the PA went down. And I was like, how has the PA gone down on the last band of the night, or the first band of today, really? How's this happened now? But it did. And we were able to get through it by being dicks to each other.
I mean, and in that moment is what like you just said, it's what they want the show, like regardless of the music, it's how you respond, right? That's what it really comes down to. And your personality, the one thing you see a lot in specifically our space, like the rock space, is it's really hard to find that personality inside of the music in general, when you have like more to offer than just like, check out these songs. We're all every person, not just musicians, but everybody are multi-layers of an onion. And you guys have been able to carry those layers around with you, and subsequently
I think
find fans.
We don't think we're rock stars. I think that's a big thing. Like a lot of people in the rock industry, they take it very seriously. Not that we don't. We take our career very seriously, obviously, but not that seriously. Like we're so lucky to be able to go on stage and play music for people. Like you don't have to be really uptight about it. Like if you fuck up, it's okay. It's all right. Like we'll never get mad at James, the drummer, for fucking up. In fact, it's always the drummer.
Always find a drummer.
Yeah. So everybody stops and just looks right there.
But he fucks up, and we'll tell everyone, I'll stop the song. Most bands are like, oh, just keep going. I'm like, whoa. Everything stops. I'm like, sorry, James has fucked everything up. And I'll put him on the spot. I'm like, you owe them a drum solo. And he's like, what? And I'm like, see ya. At least there you go. Time to make up for your mistakes.
Awesome.
Anyway, I was gonna say, it's like remind the label people, industry people, that England created humor, so it's in your blood already. So it's no fault of your own. It's already intrinsically there.
It's my dad's fault.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
It's his dad's fault.
Right. Monica, I hope you got your answer out there. So Yeah.
Oh yeah.
humor-
Hey Monica, thanks for the question.
Yeah, sorry, we probably forgot Monica. Humor is a massive part of the show and these guys' personalities. So yeah, thank you for asking the question, Ben. Thanks for answering. We appreciate it.
I didn't realize.
And it just goes to, yeah, it just goes, we're still in the same place. I mean, I'm like looking at these current like activities right now with this. I mean, what do you have? Like the Anti-Socialist is still in the top 10 on Active Rock, which is marks like what you have like 5 or 6 or 7 songs that have now crossed that threshold from going from like this place in York, like we just said, to now implemented here, carrying all of that along. Now you're able to head into those professional areas like Active Rock. How does that feel when you step on those stage, when you know exactly who you are, coming from a band like Wilson, who shares the same ethos as you? When you walk on the stage of like pure perfect production, and you're like, I'm probably gonna shit my pants tonight. Like, but knowing you have the accolades to back that up, how does that inform you guys what decisions to be making on your next record? Sure.
That's something we've been talking about a lot lately, and it's in the beginning of your career. It's quite difficult. I think when you're around like album 2 or even 3, it's like, okay, what do we do for the set? What do we do live? What are the best songs going to be live? And then once you get to our position where we're 6 albums deep, the set's kind of written for you because you've the proof's there, it's done. You've written the songs that have reacted and you know what you're doing. So it kind of makes it easier, but at the same time, it's like I get really upset about it because I'm the main songwriter in the band, and for instance, on our self-titled, the one right before this one, there's a song called Hopelessly Hopeful, and I was like, this is the best song I've ever written. I love this song, and it never got taken to radio, which means it doesn't exist in this world. You know what I mean? It never got serviced as a single. So I'm like, oh, I put so much time and effort into that, and I wish people could hear it. And then I go and look on Spotify, and it's had like tens of millions of streams, and I'm like, hang on a minute, that's done that all by itself. Maybe we should throw that into the set. But people just, it gets difficult again this far in, but in a completely different way, because you kind of almost you have to play the hits. We haven't had any hits. Not Metallica.
Oh yeah, I mean, clearly, I mean, dude, you have millions and millions and millions of streams. I mean, they're hits, whether that it's considered by a radio station to be a hit. It doesn't fucking matter, man. It's the fans that drive the barometers, you know?
Well, you guys are 11 years into your career, and this newest album is your strongest one yet, as far as if we're looking at a marketable expansion of how it's done, and the singles off it and the videos, everything like that. So yeah, I mean, you could basically go out and play this album in its entirety, and that's your set. We were never going to do a whole set of just this album, but we wrote every song on this album to be in its best light live. And that's what's so frustrating about this pandemic is we specifically wrote this album from start to finish with the live show in mind. It's like, this is going to happen during this bit live. This is going to happen here. People are going to sing here, and we've not got to do that, which is it's upsetting. But the funny thing is about that, this is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is one of our, if not our most successful full record to date. But you still get people online that go, I like your old stuff better, which is fine. That's fair. Like, obviously, I've got albums like that I love, and it's all about nostalgia and how that album made you feel in a certain point of your life. So I get it. But people then start to look at, like, they'll Google sales and stuff. Like, look, this album has sold this much, and this one's only sold this. It's like, no one buys records anymore, man. But so people have this ammunition, they think, to come at you and like, see, you suck ass now. No one's buying your albums. You got to go back. It's like, hey, dude, stop bullying me. When we're mean, it's funny. You're just mean.
Yeah. Also, but look at it this way. The way I think about this. Sorry. I think about it like
so spot on.
It's so fucking frustrating, right? I can only see what you're talking because I'm not in this position. My band's defunct, but I do know that what I took away from our last record, that's from my band, which was complete separation from what our band had, completely separated from what our band used to be known for the mental health side of our band, because we wanted that part of us that was hidden away in the shadows to come to light, the humor, the existence of who we are as people. That record, though, maybe wasn't as commercially as large of a hit as some of our past would have been on radio, the streaming numbers and the reaction. And the sales that we know about is bigger than ever. And that's
Yeah.
because the world that you've built and that you've encompassed, if there's no more nothing bigger to drive your brand than your authenticity. And you guys are that through and through, you know. With that being, I don't know if you can.
So people say like, oh, you sold out because you don't sound like you did when you started. But to me, it's the exact opposite. And I try and explain that to people. This is what we've done is the opposite of selling out, because if we were to sell out, what we would do is we would go back to the records that started our career and we would regurgitate that for the sake of it, because we know, well, it's worked once, so we'll do it again, and we'll keep doing it because that way people will keep buying it and we'll make more money. And that's what selling out is to me. It's making a product, making music, making art with the sole intentions of continuing to bring that money in of something you've already done. As an artist, I want to keep creating new music, and you know what, you're going to lose fans along the way, but with each record you'll lose fans and new fans will discover you, and it can go back and forth. Sometimes you get bigger, sometimes you get smaller, but I think, like you just said, so long as you're staying authentic and true to yourself and you're enjoying yourself and putting yourself into music, there's always an audience for that. There's always people that will connect with it, and that's all that matters. And then there's some people that just, it's like I spoke to Rob Flynn a few weeks ago about Machine Head, and I was like, honestly, dude, I stopped listening to Machine Head a little while ago. My favorite records of Machine Head are the older ones.
Burning Red.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Burning Red, or even like Ashes to Empires, or even Supercharger. I loved that when it came out, even though everyone was like, what the fuck is this? I thought it was great. And I was saying to him, it's not because your band's not still great, because actually the new single they came out with, Circle the Drain, I heard it and I got really excited. I was like, this is fucking dope. And I was explaining to him, it's not because your band ever became less good or I didn't appreciate it as much, but it's because those records at that time in my life, I needed them. They came at the right time and I listened to them and I connected with them in such a way that they will forever be special to me, no matter what you bring. And guess what? Your new albums, well, for me, I didn't get that connection with them because those were mine. There's so many new people that have that same connection with these other records, and people just don't realize that, and they want to pick artists apart for, like, people say this thing now too. They're like, I hate when artists say that it's growth. What do you mean you hate when artists say it's growth? It's growth. You grow as a human being. You grow and you change, and you're not the same. Like, fuck me, if we were the same, I'd still be shitting my pants and my mum would be wiping my ass. She doesn't do that anymore. She thinks it's disgusting. So
you've tried, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Ben, you brought up a good point before we started this conversation, and you talked about like you running into someone in the grocery store or whatever, and you're like, oh, I loved you in high school. You were a great person, and it's just like, you know, everything changes. Like that. The unfortunate thing, as you mentioned, is like people want you to do that first album. The truth of the matter is, as soon as you do that, the people who enjoyed your first album have probably moved on to something at this point. They moved on to another band, or probably stopped listening to music, or gone to another direction. So you'd be making it, quite honestly, for no one, and certainly not for yourself.
Not for us, so why do it?
Yeah, exactly.
That was something else I said to Rob too. I was like, we could, as artists, regurgitate that first album perfectly because I'm the one that wrote it. I could rewrite it. And those people that want that album, that sound back, they'll hear it and they'll go, well, this isn't as good. Well, of course it's not, because it's not genuine. That's not the way I feel now. And they won't have that same connection with it because, again, it's that album at that time in their life is why they love it so much, because it was that album that got them through breakups and deaths and whatever hardships they were going through. That's what that album was there for. If I regurgitate it now, you're going to hear it and it's going to sound similar, but you won't get the same emotions from it.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, you moved me just talking about it, because I can see that you're passionate about what you're creating and what you're doing, and every step of the way. The idea of what you just said is subjective. Music is subjective. That time and place is all that matters. You have a connection with someone. That person has a connection with your band, and you have a connection with them because it happened. It doesn't have to happen. It's not supposed to happen. Human nature is not supposed to be designed that way. Yeah. When you force it, you're essentially causing more rifts than really need to be there. And you like you said, like you made that same record again. That listener is not the same person mentally as they were when they heard that record. Other experiences have happened in their lives. They didn't live the same Groundhog Day, Bill Murray style all over again every single day until that came out, So it's just, it's disheartening, and I understand what you're saying. However, on the flip side of it, when you see any sort of effort put into, like, I wish it was like your old stuff, that's a win. That took more effort for them to just say pass and not talk about it ever again than it would have been than anything. So you got their attention, and subsequently they pissed off somebody else who loves it, and they're going to talk.
My favorite thing to do, and it's a similar thing, is that like we've done tours that like with like Slayer and stuff where it's like, whoa, this is kind of scary, and we've seen people front row just like,
yeah.
And my favorite thing to do is go, it's okay, dude, you're gonna be good. We're done soon. Slayer will be on after us. You're going to make it through. And as soon as you give them interaction and you don't go, oh, yeah, you see so many bands like, fuck you, dude, fuck you. They love that. They're like, oh, yeah, this fucking guy, fuck. As soon as you're nice and you're like, hey, dude, I can tell we're not your fucking cup of tea, but we'll be done soon. Chill. Go get a beer. You'll be fine. They go, oh, man, why was I being a dick?
Yeah.
All right. And then they'll get into it. And by the end of the show, they're like, yeah.
It's funny, Ben. You really did strike a chord when you were talking about you writing for yourself, because a lot of people here are mentioning how they're stoked about the new music you're presenting and how organic it is and that you're being true to yourself. So it strikes a chord with even your fans now. They're not like wishing for you they're not wanting stand up and scream again. They're wanting what you're doing now.
Yeah.
But
And that's the beautiful thing too. It's always like, it's the few that are the loudest. It's the few keyboard warriors. But I know that most of our fans aren't that way. And you know what? I meet so many fans too, where it's funny. It's my daughter's birthday tomorrow, so me and my wife have been blowing up balloons every single day. So we didn't want to cook, so we ordered Domino's, and the Domino's guy came, and he was stoked that it was me. He was like, "Oh my god!" And he was like, "I just want to let you know, dude, you like shaped my childhood." And I was like, "Where's this going?" And he was like, "You were there for me when my parents weren't, when my friends weren't." And I just want you to know that those first albums really changed me as a person. And then he carried on to say, I've grown with you. Like, I've got older with you guys. And I love what you're doing today just as much as what you were doing back then, because he's grown. He's changed as a person. He's not, going through a rebellious adolescent phase anymore. He's in a different part of his life. And I know that for us as a band, most of our fans feel that way because they have grown with us. And if we hadn't grown and we'd stayed the same, like you said, a lot of our fans would have grown up and moved on, which is always a shame. It's nice to be like, look at Metallica. They've grown. Their discography is wildly different from start to finish, and I think it's so awesome that a band of that size can do that. Even like, to me, one of my favorite Metallica albums is, don't get mad, Saint Anger. I love that album so much. And everyone was like, fuck this album. Do you hear the snare? I'm like, have you listened to the lyrics? Like, the lyrics are unreal. People are moving about the snare drum.
Yeah.
I know they're nitpicking. Hey, did that guy hook you up with double sausage?
What?
The pizza guy.
Oh. I was like,
what kind of chat?
No, what's going on? Come on, man.
I don't want to
family man. I'm not going to do that. Hey, listen, real quick before you get on your next subject. If you do talk to Rob Flanagan, if they want to do the Blackening 2, I ain't gonna be mad at him.
Great record too.
Yeah,
it's a great record. They're a great band. They're one of the first really heavy bands I saw as a child when they came to Dubai, and I was blown. They started the set with Imperium, and I was just like, my face was blown completely off. I had to regrow this after their set. It was
That's
insane.
awesome. Dude, okay, so perfect segue here, because I have a question about Dubai and you started being a musician, essentially, your exploration into what this has all become. Yeah. But correct me if I'm wrong, did it start in Dubai? And can I ask you, like, what's up with, like, how were you born and your family's from Dubai? Like, how did this all come to one, and then starting a band there? Did you actually have other people you were playing with? Like, what was that like, dude?
So basically, everyone always asks, were your parents in the military if you went to the Middle East? And actually, my dad's in advertising. And when I was born in England, my whole family heritage is British, as far back as anyone's been able to ever find. And I was born in England, and my sister was born in England. And I was 5 years old, and my dad got made redundant. And my parents were super young. My mom was like 20 when she had me. So my parents are like 25 years old. They've got a 5-year-old, they've got a 3-year-old. My dad's got no job, but living in South London, super expensive. And he just didn't know what to do. And he got offered a job in Dubai. And because back then, this was 1993, something like that. Dubai was nothing, you know. So when he got asked to go out there, the price that came with it was hefty. It was a really big raise for him because people didn't want to go and live out there then. So he was like, okay, it's tax free. He got offered a lot of money. He was like, I can give my family a better quality of life moving. And everyone was like, you're crazy. And my dad was like, I have to do it for my family. So we did it and we moved to Dubai. And I got to watch this incredible city grow from when we got there was one main road, Sheikh Zayed Road. It was one highway. There was one building at the end of it and another building all the way at the other end, which happened to be a Hard Rock Cafe. And you could see them both. Like, so you could see each end of Dubai and there were no skyscrapers, nothing. And so I grew up there, but a lot of the people there were expats too. So there was a lot of Americans, English, Australian, South American, South African, Filipinos, Indians. It was like a melting pot, and obviously the locals, and everyone just kind of meshed and melded into one. So all these different cultures started coming into play and everything. Like, I genuinely didn't even know racism was a thing until I left home and moved back to England. I just I'd never heard of it. It sounds absurd and people don't believe me, but I'd never, ever even heard of racism. Yeah. And so growing up, you know, I was super into music, and because you're friends with everyone, all these different kinds of music start being thrown at you. And I just fell in love with everything. I love all kinds of music. And so I just picked up a guitar. And I used to skip classes at school and just be like, oh, I'm going to go and sit in the music department. And I just taught myself to play guitar. And there were so many friends that did the same, and they would teach themselves drums. And so we started a band. And then it became super apparent that metal was just huge over there, metal and rock. So there were all these underground rock shows going on that kids would organize, and they'd get money from mom and dad and be like, oh, I need this money to put on an event, and they would like rent an ice rink and put on a show, and they were just old school flyers, like put them around all the schools, and people would turn up. So we made a band, and we're playing shows in Dubai, these underground shows in front of like 1,000 people each time you play. And so I grew up thinking that was normal. And I was like, this whole thing is easy. Look at all these people, this music. And then we got older, and my band in Dubai, we were still called Asking Alexandria. It was all different people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was all different
Holy
people.
Shit, okay.
We got signed, and I was like, sweet. We got signed to a label in England. And we moved back to England. We're like, we're going to go on tour. And the label was like, yeah, here's your debut album. You're going on tour. And we got to England, all super stoked. We bought a van, and we turned up. We did our tour. And literally, some nights, I shit you not, 0 people. 0 people were there. And we had to play. Otherwise, we weren't getting paid. And so we'd play in front of 0 people or 2 people. Or if it was a really good night, maybe fucking 10 people.
Hey, keep in mind the Beatles did that at the Star Club in Hamburg. They played to nobody, so you're in good company.
Well, yeah, but did they start off playing to 1,000 people?
Yeah, exactly.
When that happened, all of the rest of my band went, dude, this sucks. And I was like, no, it doesn't. It's character building. And they were like, no, this sucks. And everyone left. And I was like, oh man, I'm all on my own. I can't be the only one turning up to these empty rooms. That would be really embarrassing. And so that's when this version kind of formed. I met Danny online, you know, and we just were talking, and he introduced me to Cam and Sam and James, and the rest is history. And then instead of touring the UK, I was like, hey guys, it's no good. No one turns up. We got to go to the States. That's where all the fans are. So we went straight to the States. We'd never played a show, never done anything. And it turns out it's the same here. No one turned up. So it's a lot of hard work and dedication.
Okay,
it's
so
real- yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry, Chad. I just want to get to a question from one of the ship
Yeah.
rockers. Jennifer is asking now. You're talking about your origins. What were the artists that kind of like inspired you to want to become a musician?
Oh, if I'm being really honest,
Sure.
the new Grease. But if I'm not being honest, I'll say Metallica because that's way cooler. But
No, let's
who's
go
the
with
first one?
Grease. Going with Grease.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
the movie, the film.
yeah, the movie. My mom said she knew from the age of like 2 that I was going to be a musician. I guess my granddad had an old wooden, like, so really old wooden tennis racket. And my mom said when I was 2, I used to just stand in front of the television with Grease on and just strum this racket. And
Oh my
from
God.
that, they started taking me to like musicals in London and the West End. Like I'd go and see Phantom of the Opera and all these different musicals, and Cats and all these Andrew Lloyd Webber things. And I just fell in love with music that way. And so I just had always loved music, but it was Metallica that made me go, oh, this is what I want to do forever. It was, I remember the riff. It was Through the Never. I put Through the Never on, and that riff came on, to get it, and I was just like something in me changed. And I remember I was still so young, and I heard that. I was
Pubes are
like,
just spewting out.
I was jumping on my bed. I couldn't help myself. I was like, "Whoa, my God!" And my mom comes bursting in, like, "What are you doing?" The music's like shaking the house. I was like, "I have no idea, but it's amazing." And I was like, "This is it. I'm doing this forever. The way the guitar riff made me feel. That's what I want to do for other people." And that was that.
That's
well,
awesome,
Jennifer,
man.
there you go. But I love that the Grease thing because a few weeks ago, Chad and I, we had Burton Bell from Fear Factory on, and the thing that got him into music was Air Supply.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, it's seriously, it's you see these heavy rockers and you're like, oh yeah, they're probably super like whatever, like Metallica, and then you throw that at them and they're like, okay, it's fantastic. Yeah, we all start somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, dude, so this whole world in Dubai, like to suck the cool right out, as if you will, when you go back home and you're like thinking it's going to be everything. This is your fucking first, like you said, first band. I came from a small town and I rented halls. I don't know if you guys had that in London at all, but it'd be like I'm trying to think of what, like VFW halls and different. Yeah, and I bring the sound. I earned everything I could earn to purchase a sound system, and I throw my own shows, and I could charge $3 cover and put out the old school flyers.
Yeah. So
well attended. Small town. Every time we did a show, there's probably like a couple hundred people, 400, 500, something like that. And then I played. Yeah, exactly. And then I played my first venue, like outside of my shitty town in like the major city, going to play like with some other local bands, like we swapped a show. And I had like 500 people at my show, and we show up there, and it's just the bands, and that sort of just it's like
and all of their instruments around the circumference, the perimeter of the venue. It's just even worse. Like, oh, great.
you can see like the drum rack, and you're like, why do you need that? You don't even need that drum rack.
Oh my God, our drummer had one too. And you know what the worst part is? This massive drum rack. Our drummer was left-handed, whatever that means. Drum kit. Come on, dude. He's a left-handed drummer, so we always got put on last. So I was like, because everyone would share a kit, and we'd have to switch it around. It's like, oh, you guys can go on at 1 o'clock in the morning. Great, thanks, Andy.
Dude, but that you said is like it cuts the fat out of the fucking meat when you know like that you want to do this thing because you clearly have been doing it for the longest of your band. A, B, you went through all of these highs and lows, and it separates. It's shitty to say, but it separates. Maybe let me put it a little bit in a brighter way. People want to do certain things with their lives. Some things are more romantic, like the idea of being a rock star. And if you can't suffer through eating the dry ramen, playing to nobody, sleeping on a floor of, wherever, for me, it was like on parking blocks for years, if you can't handle that, then this isn't the thing for you. And then there's no problem with that, but just please let us know for the people who it is the thing for. We don't end up
keep going.
Yeah. It's crazy to hear about that exists even in places like, well, Dubai, not really, because it sounds awesome. But like I think about the UK and I romanticize about it when I'm younger. I'm like, oh man, there's probably so many more people at shows there,
Just to clarify, more than 0 people turn up when we play in England now. Thankfully.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for clarifying.
Just so the promoters know, hey, they
Yeah,
do show up.
So
Hey,
I wanted to ask you about, sorry, another question?
No, I was going to pull a question from someone. Joseph wanted to know, and this is kind of just away from music, is he wants to know, do you have aspirations outside of music?
Genuinely, I hadn't had any. My music was my entire life and reason for living and breathing. And then I've dabbled in acting. I fell into that by accident, and I actually really do enjoy it. It's another way for me to be creative, but it's not. I'm not comfortable with it, so it's still scary. Music used to really scare me, and doesn't anymore. I'm very comfortable doing music. I still love it, but it's not scary. Acting, super scary still. I know I'm still garbage at acting, so it's fun to go and push yourself. But honestly, I kind of, since I've had kids, nothing else has really sparked my interest at all, other than there's even been points now having kids where I'm like, man, maybe I should stop doing music. Like, that's how passionate I am about being a dad. I hate going away. And actually, everyone's super upset about this pandemic. It's kind of been a blessing in disguise for me. I've never got to spend this much time at home with my family and my kids, and my daughter's like, she's changed so much. And I'm like, wow, it makes me so happy to be here and experience that. But it makes me really sad too, knowing all of this change that I've just experienced in this year, that I've missed all those other changes being on the road. So that's my biggest aspiration now, is just to be the best dad in the world. And I'm still trying to figure out what that means and what I have to do to do that, you know.
Was your acting, was that for the movie American Satan?
That was my acting debut, yeah.
What frightened you about that?
Too, right? Oh, sorry.
What frightened me about it?
Yeah, I'm tying it into another question from Ashley. She want to know what your experience on that film.
I walked on set, and I just flew in, and I got picked up from the airport, and I walked on set, and they're like, okay, your first scene is now. I was like, really? I can't now? Cool. I was on tour when I was supposed to be learning the lines, so I didn't learn any of my lines. And I got in this room, and when you walk on stage, there's people there, unless it's early on and you're in England. There's normally people there making noise, and they're like, this is great. And you're like, yes, and you feed off that energy. Here it's action. And there's hundreds of people there, silent, watching you, filming you, waiting for you to do, in my case, anything at all. But I couldn't even speak. I was like, I got nothing. I got nothing. Yeah, line. I couldn't even say line. I just kept saying water over and over again. I was like, water. What's he going to say? And I'm like, water. I just couldn't. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I just couldn't believe it. And then I remembered Paris Hilton did movies, and I couldn't possibly be that bad. And so I felt a lot better after that. I'd set the bar so low for myself that I couldn't even trip over it, with Paris Hilton being just there on the bottom rung. And I was like, this is great. And then I made it through the movie, and like I'm some kind of pro, I went and did a TV show recently, and it's a spin-off of the movie, actually. And new actors came. James, our drummer, actually got a role in the TV show. And as if I'm some kind of acting connoisseur, I was like, stick with me, chump. I'll show you the ropes. And I'm walking around like I know everything. And I'm like, oh, trust me, when they come and call you and you do your first line, woo, I feel bad for you. Thankfully, I don't go through that stuff anymore, you know, but don't worry about it, man. No one's here to judge you. We're all just here to support you. What a prick. Then they called me for my first line, and I was like, what? Same thing. And he's just looking at me like, I was like, oh,
yeah. The key is to ask for water, okay? Is what
Hey, if you forget your line, just ask for water. You won't even know what you're saying.
Remain confident regardless.
Yeah.
She also wanted to know what's the spinoff name?
It is called Paradise City.
Paradise City. Ashley, there you go. Ashley, thank you for your question. Ben, thanks.
Have you guys started filming? Because I was going to ask you after moving from there, like, you must have done great, because there's a spinoff, and now you have a whole other essentially version of how you're acting. Instead of a film, you're doing this is a show, right? A series.
Yeah. And I got an agent and stuff too, so I've done loads of auditions.
Wow.
And I got a part on Ballers, and then I couldn't do it because of shows. And then I got a part in a Judd Apatow movie, and I couldn't do that because we went on tour with Papa Roach. So it's hard to juggle the two things. But my biggest problem with it is that they always want an American accent. And I'm like, well, why? Why can't I just speak in my accent? It's not, no one's going to watch a movie and go, hang on a minute. Why is there an English person in New York City? Why does it matter what my accent is? But they always want an American one. And my agent was, I was like, why? Tell me why. And he was like, I'll tell you, they get really upset that foreigners are coming in here and taking the jobs of actors. And I was like, so if I get the role, do I have to stay American for the entirety of filming so no one hates me? Do I have to talk between sets too in an American accent? He went, it would probably be for the best. And I was like, oh. So
Wow.
now in all my auditions, I just say water over and over again.
Yeah. Say it again. Say it one more time.
Water.
Yeah, dude, so American of you.
It's obscene. People like English accents. Look,
Yeah.
have you ever heard of Hugh Grant? Put me in a chick flick. You need an English accent.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you should be in a lot of chick flicks for sure.
I should be in nothing but chick flicks.
Yeah.
Well, the English accent gives it some levity. So yeah.
Yeah, we have history. We have strong bones. It's intriguing.
Do you know the comedian James? I think it's a caster.
James Acaster. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
Acaster.
Hilarious. He's hilarious.
I love him. He's like one of my all-time favorites of all time. I'm huge into stand-up comedy. Like, this is my thing.
Me
And
too.
really, okay, sick. So that special, not to get nerdy, for people who don't know and are watching, you're like, fuck, that's comedy shit. It's genius. You have to watch it. It's, I believe, on Netflix or something. It's a 3-part special. Suffer through it because it all makes sense. And that dude, you remind me of him when you, the exact version of what you're talking about. It just kind of, I popped in my head, like not just the accent, but the idea of how you're able to.
He's ginger.
Yeah, he's a ninja. He's great. So you're doing Paradise City. Is it shooting or already shot, or where are you at?
No,
in
it's
this
done,
moment?
it's done, yeah.
Oh, sick. How many episodes? Is it out? I would try to find an episode.
Yeah, I think there's eight episodes in season 1, and I think it was supposed to come out this summer, but then with everything that's happened, it's been pushed back. But the cast is insane. Like, I don't belong in that show at all. There's like people with Golden Globes and all kinds of, and then there's me going in there screaming water every 10 seconds. What's this guy doing? But it was amazing. It was a lot of fun. I was very subpar compared to the rest of the cast, but you know what? Now I get to tell people that I'm friends with all these famous people, and it's cool.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I want one last thing before we talk about why we're here, the Shiprock experience. I want to ask you about Tunes, which I think is genius. When you were talking about how do I connect with my kids, that's all I want to do. And then I just immediately I saw that, and I was like, maybe that's why he's doing, because it's so smart. For not only is it fun, I'm assuming, but if I was to have a kid, I'd be like, watch what daddy does, and then you have this incredible vessel to essentially teach people of all ages. So how did that come up? Is that your idea, or what's up with that? Tell me more about it, please.
I'm a genius.
Yeah, I know.
That's the answer. So
okay, moving on.
I actually think there could be a child poking their toes under this door right now. See, to change subjects, we told my daughter they're terrible, and I think it's because I'm terrible. They're supposed to go to bed at 8, and it will be 1 a.m. and they'll still be running around. And my wife's like, "Can you get them to go to sleep?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. That's why they're still awake. I don't know what's going on." So we've tried this thing tonight where I'm like, "Well, the birthday fairy's gonna come if you go to bed," and my daughter's like, "It's not real." And I was like, "She is." "No, I've seen all my presents. Mummy and Daddy bought them all for me." I was like, "Babe, this one's on you." And now it doesn't. I don't think my wife's handling it very well either, because I keep seeing toes poking through the bottom of the door. Just
Oh, really? Oh, okay, that's hilarious.
Tiny little toes.
So, did you guys do a whole episode, like a whole series of this? When we're talking about, I believe it's you guys talking in discussing your record, right? And how it was created. I only watched one episode. I'm gonna go deep.
Yeah, so since I was a kid, I've wanted to do a TV, I've written a TV show, a cartoon one. I love cartoons. I just love cartoons. I don't know why I'm a child. So I was like, oh man, I really want to do a cartoon show. And it's been something I worked on for years. And then I watched, speaking of comedy, I'm a big stand-up comedy guy. Ricky Gervais I love Ricky Gervais. He's incredible. Everything he does, whether it's his TV shows or an Idiot Abroad or his stand-up in particular. But years ago, he did a podcast. I can't remember what it was called, but basically it was Ricky Gervais and two of his friends talking. And podcasts can get really boring really quickly. You know, if you've not got the right guest on, and things go stale, do you know what I mean? They can get, it's like, oh no. And I think he had a guest on that just wasn't giving him anything. So the podcast was just getting stale. And there's only so long that Ricky Gervais can make jokes and get nothing in return. Do you know what I mean? So he animated the guy, and he just drew a cartoon, and then he brought his conversation to life. And I was like, this is amazing. And it was before I think he was really, really successful, like worldwide successful. So it never really got as big as something he would do now. And I was like, that would be amazing to sit down with the band. And again, there's different personalities in our band. Me and Danny can go off of each other for ages, but then it doesn't let some of the quieter members like Sam or Cam get to really talk, because we'll shout over them because it's what we do. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we did it separately? And we basically did this, and we spoke to each other through Zoom. And I recorded all the audio for it. And we sent the audio to an animator and said, animate this and see what it comes up with. And it was based off of that Ricky Gervais thing. And it was really good because it allowed, like, Cameron's quite timid, you know, the guitarist, but it allowed him to come to life. He's timid, but he's funny. But you would never know because he's not loud or very, very animated in real life. And so when they brought him to life as a cartoon, it was amazing. And he has some of my favorite parts of the animated series, like when he's talking about his headphones being all janky. It wasn't that funny in this world, but when it was animated, he had those shitty headphones taped to his head. His fingers are going and stuff. I was like, see, Cameron's funny, he really is, but the cartoon allowed that to come to life, and it just came from there, and it was fun.
That's so cool.
And Gervais's Humanity, that should be on everyone's watch list. That's amazing.
I have a question about Shiprock. If you don't
let's ask a few of those questions there, Chatty.
Fun fact: Shiprocks is the last show we've played. Period.
Check. That was one of my boxes. So moving on from that situation, fun fact, last show you played, can I talk about, I like to ask everybody these two things specifically because it was your first Shiprock, right? Okay. I've done it like 9 times, like in some way, shape, or form. I'm a punisher up to myself. I said my butthole was just a gaping hole. But I want to ask, because I remember this so vividly, when you guys pulled up, or at least got to the boat when you went through the embarking process, what were you thinking? Like, because it's such a strange situation, and simultaneously you're having your own entrance, and then you get in there. Can you walk us through that experience of, like, from the seeing the boat, and then walking onto the boat, and then being the boat?
Two things were going through my head. One, my ego was bruised because the night before, or a few nights before, we'd gotten into town, and you know, you go out and strangers talk to you like, "Oh, what are you doing in town?" Or it's like, "Oh, we're playing," and everyone's like, "Oh, you're in a band?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in a band." Like, "Oh, my cousin's in a band," and my friend was in a band in high school. It's like, "Oh, yeah." So everyone automatically, when you say you're in a band, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, you're in a band." But then when you tell them you're here to play a cruise, they're like, "Oh." And I was like, "Oh no, it's not that kind of cruise. Like, it's a really cool cruise, a really cool band." Like, the piano lounge will be bumping. I'm like, "Fuck you!" fuck you. It's real. It's called Chiprocked. It's a very rich name with really good, successful bands on it. And you just argue with strangers. So that was my experience before it. I was like, these idiots. And then when I got there, I didn't know what to expect. You know, I'd never done it before. And I was a little bit worried that it was just going to be, and this is a thing, like, I was really worried that it was going to be a bunch of drunk people with no boundaries. So I was worried that I wasn't even going to get to enjoy my time on the boat, because if someone asks you for an autograph or a picture and you say no, you're a prick, and then they don't like your band anymore, blah, blah, blah. And so, and I don't say no. I really try not to say no. So I was worried. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do anything, and people are going to be disrespectful because some people are. And so these were the things that were going through my head. And then I got on there, and this is something else I've realized as we've gotten older, and our fan base has gotten older too. Everyone is super respectful. And I was like, this is awesome. And people would come over to me all the time, but they wouldn't necessarily want a picture or anything. They'd want to talk and have a conversation. They'd be like, here's a beer, talk. And I'm like, sweet, let's talk, you know. And it would never be stupid conversation like, what's it like to be a rock star, or how much money do you have, or it would be real, because these people are music fans. So it would be music talk. And I ended up like going and sitting at the bar with strangers, and I was loving it. And I met so many great people, and I heard so many stories from different people. And there was like a family there that really struck a chord with me. I was in the casino area, but there was a small stage in the casino area, and there was a band player. I can't remember what band was playing. I was just there, and I was talking to people. They were coming up. I was taking some pictures, having conversation, having a nice time. This family comes up to me and they go, oh, would you mind making a video for our son? He can't be here. He was supposed to be here with us, but he couldn't make it. And I said, of course. Like, why couldn't he make it? And they said, oh, he's battling cancer right now. And I was like, fuck, like, of course I'll make a video. And I remember I made the video, and this family just really stuck out. They were lovely. They were so nice. And that was it. They were like, okay, we'll let you get on with your evening, you know, have a nice time. And they actually emailed me about a week and a half ago now, and their son has just passed away. And I was like, and they were like, you probably don't remember us. And all. I absolutely 100% do. And, you know, I spoke to them via email. There's nothing I can do to help, you know, but it was just, I guess what I'm saying is like the community was so nice, and everyone was so much fun, that I took the time and I actually did engage and learn people's stories and form real connections with people. And I had a really good time, you know, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't at all know what to expect, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was wonderful. And there's people there too. They're like, yeah, we do this every year. And I'm like, every year? And they're like, yeah, this is our holiday. They save up and they do it every year. And I'm like, but we're not on every year. So I didn't really understand, but it's really awesome.
Yeah.
Well, dude, no, man, I gotta tell you, it's fantastic hearing all that, because it's exactly what we mentioned when we talk to folks about just the community there and their music smarts, and they're gonna have all your music and they're gonna be a fan, but you know, they're also like working at family adults. You know, they treat you as another adult, and it's just a conversation. And yes, you have your few here and there, and that's fine and dandy. You got to expect that. But hearing you say that just really brings a lot to me, to my heart, just to hear that, because it's always what we want. We hope that the artist comes away with, and you came away exactly with what we hoped for. So thank you.
That was awesome. Oh, thank
you.
Great. Also, that's the last steak I've had, and because of this stupid fucking pandemic, I'm not going to restaurants. And I will say, I was on a boat, wasn't expecting much from a steakhouse. It was amazing. I went to that steakhouse every night on that boat. There was free food for the artists, which is wonderful. But I went to that steakhouse every night, and I was like, I'm paying. This is great. It was so
yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think that's like an art expedition where there's like a nudist pops out the middle of the table and doves fly in and all that shit. It's like, what's going on? And you're left with a brownie. And
a sore butthole. Always the sore butthole. That's so like to like just really quickly take that, like Justin said, it's incredible to hear you say that as a performer and now a host of the ship. The fans on there are my favorite. You know, I've been on it so many times. I know the story.
Really? What are they called then?
Steven, who's listening, Jerry, for sure, Phoebe. I communicate with them all. Yeah, Phoebe, she's dropping in all the time. We're talking on the phone. I'm like, what's up with your kid? Seriously, these folks, like when my band broke up last year, the end of the year, December, we called it quits, and we played this last show, and we played it, announced it, sold out all these tickets. We're like, oh, great, somebody cares about us finally, that sort of thing. And then I looked at the ticket listing, and I'm like, man, these people are from like all over the world. What the fuck is going on? And then I looked that day, because I could only see the zip codes or whatever. I looked that day, and in that room, celebrating the demise or whatever you want to call it, the legacy or whatever the fuck you want to call it, this little band's little nucleus that nobody really should have been that excited about, were all these people from that ship. They came, they flew in from over in Norway, from over in Sweden, from here in the States, Florida, back in Detroit, where we played in Detroit, everywhere. And these, man, I can't tell you how, like, that moment that you had with that family, and that you were there to remember it for them, how much that definitely meant to them, And it's just cool to know that we can share these experiences, whether we're here virtually or on a boat together. It never leaves you. It never leaves you. Yeah.
And that's the thing you get, and that's like when you do get people just talking shit online to talk shit. That's why I try not to take it to heart, because there are things like what you're talking about, where it's like they remind you why you do this, and you have connections with people, real connections with people, and it's like this means a lot to them, which in turn means a lot to me, and so it is an incredible thing, and I do feel incredibly privileged and lucky to be doing this. It is hard, and it is a lot of work, but fuck, man, tell me one other job that's cooler than this.
None.
No.
Well, maybe being a stand-up comedian, but I guess I'll really never know. It's probably pretty brutal too.
Well, the thing too, Ben, is when you guys do get back on the road, you're going to start seeing all those Shiprock banners in the crowd, and that community will come and follow you, because it plays back to the same thing. It's like you performed and were part of something they love, and now they're going to basically follow you because they're like, what, if they're down with what we're into, then we're family now, and they're going to start following.
No matter where we play, they turn up in swimming trunks.
Absolutely. Yeah, they will.
Swimming trunks and a beach towel.
Man. So, but to lastly ask the last part of the two-part question here. Now you're off the ship, right? The experience is done. Yeah.
Can I ask one question real quick? It was the first question that was posed tonight, and Chad, I know we're going to get to you right there. Best Shiprock moment for you, other than of course that lovely video.
Honestly, it's so easy actually to pick it. It's just going to sound terrible to begin with. It was when I got off the boat on one of the days off. We went to we stopped somewhere in Mexico. I can't remember where we stopped. Actually, both stops were incredible, but we stopped in Mexico, and I did one of the exhibitions where you could go to the private villa on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I didn't know what to expect, and we got in this van and we drove down these little roads, and we got to this villa, and obviously stunning. We're on the beach. There's waiters and waitresses bringing you ice cold beer, and actually I did get a little bit of shit from the waiter. He didn't really speak much English, and I ordered a wine, and he went, "Wine?" And I was like, "Yes, wine. You can't speak any English, but you can be facetious. My God, bring me a wine, judgy." Everyone else is drinking beer, and I've got a white wine. But there was obviously people from the ship there, and I just ended up having the best time talking. At first, when we got there, it was me and Sam, our bass player, and we kind of put ourselves away, and we had our little beds, and we were under a palm tree. It was very romantic. We had a picture taken together, which is still in my living room. Great.
Yes.
And this family was behind us, and I could hear the husband going, "Just leave them alone. They're relaxing." I could hear them like bickering quietly. And I turned around, I was like, do you guys want a picture? And they said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. We didn't want to bother you." I said, "You did, but you were being polite." And they said, "Yeah." And so I took a picture, and then we just spent like an hour talking and just having a nice time, nice conversation. I had a wine, everyone else had a beer. And then slowly, one by one, everyone from the ship started coming, and not everyone on the ship, but that was at the exhibition, and we were all talking, and we ended up, a guy came with an acoustic guitar and started serenading all of us. And at the end of the night, we all stood, when it was time to leave and get back on the boat, we all took a massive group picture. Maybe it was a small group, maybe like 20 of us, 30 of us. But it was awesome. We just became one of the attendees of Shiprocked, you know, and it was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Hey, we had one last question, Chad, before you get to yours. This is something Henry's a shiprocker. He wanted to know, Ben, if you were to go back to your first album and the person you were then and what you know now, what would you tell Ben in 2009?
It's a good question.
That's a really good question. It's so hard to answer that, because if I actually was given that ability to go and speak to me, I would really sit down and be like, hey, dickhead, no, you know, like I wouldn't get sucked into drugs. I wouldn't because growing up, I was never a big, funny enough, because I'm English, I was never a big drinker or anything. And when the band started getting big, I was kind of made to believe that we had to be this party band. And that's why people loved us, and people just started literally feeding us drugs and alcohol, which was never anything. I didn't grow up like that. So, you know, and it was a terrible downward spiral, and years wasted partying and doing drugs. And I'm clean now. I haven't done drugs. My daughter was born, and my wife was like, it's done, or I'm taking your daughter, and I stopped, you know, and I've not done it, and I'm so much better off for it. So if I really could go back in time, I would sit down and say, look, dickhead, they're full of shit. The music industry is full of shit. You don't need to be on drugs. You don't need to be drunk all the time. You don't need to party. Just be yourself, and people like that more. But at the same time, I feel like if I didn't do everything that I did do, I wouldn't be where I am now. You know, my daughter wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have met the people I met that took me. So it's hard, because I would really want to look at that kid and go, everything you're about to do is shit, and you shouldn't do it. And you're going to break your mom's heart and your sister's heart a million times over. And you're going to end up divorced, which, you know, I'm divorced once, and you're going to break her heart. And it's not, don't do any of it. But at the same time, if I don't, then I'm not here sat talking to you guys with my kids out there waiting for me, you know. So it's a double-edged sword. You know, I think sometimes you have to go through a lot of shit and get it over and done with early on, at least, so that you can learn from it and carry on. Because some people fuck up way later on in life, and that's a real way.
Those obstacles are super important, and people always want to kind of move this out of the way. There's no smooth ride. So no. I think you're right. It's like, hey, you know, you needed those moments. Thank God you're here with us, and you're living a sober life, and that's wonderful. So
it's way easy to put weight on when you're not on cocaine all the day. It's terrible, actually. It's the one thing I miss about the drug.
yeah. But there's running.
So much.
Well, you know, it's cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, cool running when you're wearing a Nirvana t-shirt and tiny little skimpy skinny jeans. It just doesn't look good. You look a bit like a poser, like you don't belong. It's like, hey, listen, fatty,
get lost.
Listen to the Nirvana LPs, you loser.
What's your favorite song, then? You know?
Yeah, that's my
name every song in their
someone always gives you a deep cut too. No one's ever honest. No one ever says "Smells Like Teen Spirit" because I know that's your favorite song. It's everyone's favorite Nirvana.
Last song on Bleach, man. The last song on Bleach. That was my one. That was my two. No,
what's it called? I don't remember, man.
I don't know. I was fucked up during that time. It was a great album, I think.
Yeah, man. I don't remember song names because they just speak to me.
Yeah.
You're a kid.
Someone mentioned here, Jennifer says rock yoga, Ben. Ben, yoga is your future.
Hey, listen, my ex-wife's a yoga instructor, and it's really painful. I should take
shit.
She actually is, but good for her. You know, she's healthy and I'm fat. I should take up yoga. I've got a terrible back. I have the hips of a 60-year-old woman that's birthed 5 children. I'm a mess.
I thought you were English, not Irish.
Well, I said as far back as we can find, I'm English, but there might have been a bit of Irish in me at some point. Not in me.
Yeah, there you go.
I got it. Hey, I want to say thanks, man. I mean, Justin usually capstones this, so I'm gonna let him do it. but
This is,
just
I
love
couldn't help it,
knowing
man.
this,
Half of it's me laughing my ass off. I couldn't like contain my composure, man. So
I
Ben,
had like
thank
so
you.
many questions I didn't get through, but I love
Yeah.
everything we did get to talk to because
We
it
didn't even.
speaks to your personality. Man.
Hey man, I'll come back. We could do part 2.
Hey,
Fuck
listen,
yeah.
we'd love it because that would be great
Yeah.
because then we can actually talk about your music more. But this has
Oh,
been
yeah,
fantastic. So, yeah,
I
who
do
cares?
sometimes.
Okay, yeah, you do it sometimes.
Yeah, the record's out though right now, correct?
Yes.
You can find it.
It is. And you know what's crazy too is this is such a shit year and we haven't been able to tour it. And so I was like, I don't even know what to expect or what to do. But like our monthly listeners on Spotify keep going up and the songs are just they're living and breathing without live. So which I'm excited about because it never, and you know, again, as a musician, you never get the opportunity for songs to live and resonate with people and then go and play them for the first time. You're always like, normally the Like a House on Fire tour would be 2 weeks before the album's even out. And you're playing songs and everyone's like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, a new song. I didn't want to do the tour right now either, but the label said I had to.
Man, your American accent is amazing, by the way.
That was great. This is your new.
What the fuck?
We got this new single, right? This is the single. Do I have it correctly positioned here?
Is it House on Fire or
Like a House on Fire?
Is
Yeah.
House on Fire the new single?
House on Fire is the record. Like a House on Fire is the record. The new single is House on Fire on this record.
The new single, I think that just started. The first single was Anti-Socialist. I think this is how professional I am. I think the new single starts. We service it this week. I think it's They Don't Want What We Want. Which, by the way, for anyone that hasn't heard it, go listen to it. And if you have, you'll know what I'm talking about. That song was supposed to be called Panic. And there were some people in our label that were like, it can't be called Panic. So now it's called They Don't Want What We Want and They Don't Care. And no one, including the band, can say that. So it will forever be called Panic. So whenever we're on stage finally, we say, this next song is called Panic. Don't be confused.
What was the issue they had with Panic? What's...
Sorry, I thought I had the whole playlist here.
The life of me could not tell you. I don't know.
All right.
Maybe it wasn't artsy enough, but it's
it wasn't what?
It wasn't artsy enough, I don't think.
Yeah, well, yeah, it wasn't wordy enough. Yeah. Listen, everyone, please go out check out Asking Alexandria's new album, Like a House on Fire. You can find it on all the streaming services. But you know what? Do yourself one better. Go find it on vinyl and buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AskingAlexandria.com.
It's at AskingAlexandria.com. I think that's our website. Let's be honest.
Please.
Is a website outdated?
No.
Does anyone, is it not? Do people use websites still?
It's only good for the hyperlink now. It's like a link tree, right? You only really want it to go.
Yeah, I mean,
you go askingalexandria.com and it goes Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah. I think if they just want to buy apparel or something like that, that's what it's good for. It's more of a shop these days instead of news. They'll get on Twitter or whatever. They're not going to find that, on your website.
That's what I'm gonna change Asking Alexandria
on your Commodore 64.
Yeah, geocities.com / a bunch of numbers.
I remember back when I was a kid, websites were the shit. I remember Slipknot. I remember it was slipknot1.com was Slipknot's website, and I remember I used to go in there every day to see what crazy shit was going to happen next, and it would just be like an S going, and I'd watch it for hours just in case something happened. But I think back then it probably cost too much, and that was all it did forever.
Well, I think they've got to incentivize and say, hey, look, you come and subscribe to our website, you get a free unreleased track. They've got to give you something for something.
Yeah, but then you have to get permission from the record label to give people a free unreleased
Damn
track.
it.
And then they won't get their cut, Justin.
Well, I don't know.
Wait,
it works out
there's
for
money.
us,
There's money to be made here.
Not for the artist.
No, of course. It's like they'll just take all yours.
Everyone else.
Good job, kid. Good job, kid.
Get out there and go play some shows. They love you.
Listen, Ben, you've got to.
Just for Dad.
Ben, you've got to put your girls to bed. We've kept you way past the time we usually keep people, but this has been so entertaining. I don't think Chad and I would argue. But this has been great.
It's amazing.
Great
You're
time.
awesome.
Yeah. And listen, we'll definitely schedule to get back for part 2. We really would like to kind of delve more into your creative side and things like that. But this has been great. So if you guys will watch this tonight, I hope you guys laughed as much as we did. And if you need to This is going to be live on the. Well, it won't be live, but it'll be on the Shiprock's Facebook page for about 48 hours, and you can rewind it, go listen to your favorite parts, or if you want to check it out again in full, do that. And then eventually we'll go to Spotify podcast, iTunes podcast, and Google podcast. Just type in Making Waves, and you can add Shiprock in there if you're having trouble finding it in the search. But this has been fantastic. Ben Bruce from Asking Alexandria, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, Ben. It's been amazing.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Chad, did you have anything left to add?
No, man. I just want to get an update on how that South Carolina ball sweat is in a few weeks. Maybe we can touch base.
Actually,
physically,
I'll let you know. I'll have a cup and I'll just hold it up and see how much water is in it.
Love it.
Actually, I think it's illegal to capture your own rainwater. I think the government doesn't approve of that.
Really?
Yes.
No,
yeah.
I should enter these previous pods then.
We got a
Anyway,
sleeper cell going on down there.
A few little housekeeping things. Obviously, everyone knows that we've moved Shiprock to May of 2021. We're about 90% sold now, so there are some select cabins still available if you guys are want to get back on ship with us or haven't booked yet, but they are available. So go to shiprock.com and book your exciting voyage with us. Chad, what number will this be? 12, 13, 12?
Of the ships, of all the ships?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
all of all time?
There's a question.
12,
This
I
is
believe. 12.
There you go. All right.
Boom.
Just making sure you know the discography.
I know what I
Anyway,
count.
other than that, listen, guys, pay attention. Friday morning on our socials, we'll announce the next Making Waves guest coming on the 16th. Yeah, next Wednesday. So
You know
anyway,
count too.
Ben doesn't want to be hearing all this stuff.
Go tickle those toes, my brother. It was good to see you, man. And congratulations on everything, man. Killer record.
Yeah, fantastic. And again, thank you for killing it on Shiprock 2020, man. We really appreciate it. And I know the Shiprockers had a blast.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I'm glad.
thanks, sir. All right, Facebook land. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.